This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome everybody, my name's Rosie Sheldon and I'll be presenting the webinar today. I trust you can all hear me. So that others can't hear you during the presentation, please could you put yourselves on mute? I'll be able to take a few questions after the presentation though, so don't worry about that. I'll be talking about the Advanced Test Manager today, and if you want to know more, please do contact us. As you can see, the next two courses are quite soon, next Monday, and then on the 4th of March in London. This webinar is going to be recorded, and it'll go on our website within the week. That's tsg-training.org.uk. Today, I'll be talking about why the Test Manager course is still relevant and who might find it useful. Who might find it helpful along with the variety of activities that test managers do. I'll be giving you an overview of what the ISTQB Advanced Test Manager course covers, and then a mini lesson on how we can demonstrate how testing gives business value. This is a topic in the syllabus. The Test Manager course is one of the core advanced level courses. Sits alongside the Advanced Technical Test Analyst course, which focuses on technical testers and engineers and the skills they need, and the Advanced Test Analyst course, which focuses on the business and functional testers. The Advanced Test Manager course was historically attended by testers either already in a management or a test lead role, or those with aspirations. However, in the Agile context, a wider range of testers are carrying out the tasks traditionally completed by the test manager. And so due to the nature of Agile teams, that's what's often happened. And so this course is now applicable to more people, as many responsibilities have now been devolved down to the leads inside the Agile teams, although the team still might have a test manager outside. Agile test leads need the skills and the knowledge. Test processes need managing and improving. Test needs planning, monitoring, controlling, and of course business value needs visibility. So that's a bit of background. And what does a test manager do? A classic divide is shown here between the test manager and the test analyst. The test manager defines the test strategy, whereas the analyst implements it. Test manager plans, schedules, tracks testing. The tester follows, implements the plan, reporting on progress. The manager leads the team of testers makes decisions based on risk. The tester advises on and uses the test techniques. But now some Agile teams of testers are very involved in some of these activities, and so in those organizations without a test manager, if the test leads don't consider the wider picture, the strategic picture, if they don't have a strategic test vision, there's no one else. So what sorts of things need doing? We've got planning, estimation, business value, tools and people need to be considered. Monitoring and controlling the test process, along with dealing with defects and ensuring that closure is completed. And of course, someone needs to have the capacity to reflect on the test process improvement. Maybe doing reviews or more reviews might come into this. The test The Advanced Test Manager course groups these into 7 disciplines, and here are the headings. They're in no particular order, and here are some of the subheadings too. So those under management, tools and automation, and people skills. And as you can see, metrics is a common theme, hopefully using tools to simplify their collection. Can you see under management, there's business value? And this is what we're going to look at more now. It's a topic few delegates have considered prior to the course. So what's business value? Organisations have values. Some are very clear on what they are, some less so. And testing, of course, needs to demonstrate where possible how the value we give aligns with the organisation's values. So what values are important to your organisation, your projects? Our conversations about the value of testing needs to directly map to these organisational values, so we need to know what they are. Testers add value. Most organisations recognise this, although few test managers can quantify that value, and that's what the mini lesson is going to be about. Testing delivers value in both quantitative and qualitative ways. Values that can be quantified include the number of defects found and fixed prior to live, and those that are known prior to release but not fixed, documented maybe with workarounds. Running tests to reduce risk, and also delivering information on project or process and product status. So those are values that can be quantified, but other values are qualitative, like improved reputation for quality, smoother, more predictable releases, increased confidence, protection from legal liability. But these values are qualitative and they're harder to measure, and they're not for today's mini lesson. So we're going to talk about the cost of quality. The cost of quality is a method focusing on defect costs to quantitatively measure the value of testing. So defect costs to quantitatively measure the value of testing. It involves classifying project and organisational costs into these 4 categories. So we've got the costs of prevention, and an example would be training developers to write more maintainable code, to write more secure code, training testers, those sorts of things. So costs of prevention. But we've also got the costs of detection, and this is what you spend regardless of whether defects are found or not. So writing test cases, reviewing requirements, reading the test basis, configuring test environments, those sorts of things, costs of detection. And then there's the costs of internal failure. And these are the costs associated with the defects found during reviews and testing prior to delivery, costs of internal failure. So those are the costs to do with the defects before delivery. And those top 3 make up the cost of good quality. So that's like good quality costs. Sometimes this last one is called the cost of bad quality, costs of external failure. So support costs, if you've had defective software delivered to customers, maybe fines, fixing and redistribution costs, so the costs of external failure. And the total costs of detection and internal failure are typically well below the costs of external failure. And that's what makes testing excellent value. But we need to tell people. So we've got to calculate these costs in these 4 categories, and test managers can create a convincing business case for testing. So let's move on to the mini lesson. Test managers collect data, they collect metrics. We use them to monitor progress, to give updates to stakeholders, but we can also use them for test process improvement and to answer questions. And if you've not yet been asked those questions, start getting ready with the data, because it will happen. So here we have some data and some metrics and a question. Does raising and managing defects cost less than 50% of the internal failure costs? So we need to think how many defects have been found. Well, here we have the defects found. Okay, and we've added those together and we got 716. So that's the total number of defects found. We've also got the defects fixed, whoops, and there they are. So when we want to think about what's the total internal failure costs, we've got to think, well, who's doing the testing? How many are there? And here we've got a tester, and they're raising and retesting defects. And can you see here, this 0.2 is coming from this table, because that's the average defect investigation retest time by the tester. So that's got to be multiplied by the total number of defects found and the staff cost of that tester. So that's the raising and retesting defects cost for one tester, but we've also got the test manager, and we work out their cost in the same way. This time we've got an increased cost, and you can pick that up from here. But again, we're talking about the number of defects found, and this time it's 0.1 from this table. So that's the average defect management time from the test manager, defect per days. Now, can you see we've got fixing defects? Now, Dev fixes the defects here, and we have, they're costing 500 a day. But this time, rather than 716, I'm just going to clear it up a bit. So rather than 716, we got 474 defects that have been fixed. So that's this number here. So just as before, we're multiplying that by the average time it takes the developer to fix them and their cost. So that's being picked up from here. So then we add all of these values together, and we're going to find both the tester costs, that's the tester and the test management costs, so that's the costs of raising and managing defects, and all together we've got the internal failure costs, so that's including the developer's costs. So internal failure costs are here, down at the bottom. Right, so great, you've got some values. What does that mean? Okay, so we've got to divide the raising and retesting and managing costs, the 78,760, by the total internal failure costs. And you can see there that in fact, is it less than 50%? Yes, it's actually 39.99%. So that's one question you might be asked. Or you might be asked about what are the detection costs? Do the detection costs make up more than 70% of the costs of good quality? So a different question. Here we have some facts and figures. So we're thinking about what's the cost of good quality, and we're thinking about what's the detection cost. So let's start with the detection costs. And can you see here that we've got various teams? So we've got various teams. So for system test, we're needing to consider that we've got 14 days of analysis and design and implementation, but we've also got 15 days of test execution. So we've got to add those values together, and that's why we get 29. So how long did it take? 29 days. But how much did it cost? Well, for system test, can you see that over here we've got 3 testers? We've got 3 testers and we've got 1 test manager. So we've got 3 here, 3 testers, but how much does a tester cost? Well, we know from this table that the tester is $250. So we're going to have to multiply 250 by 3 because we've got 3 testers. So that's going to be 750. So the tester costs are 750, but we've also got the test manager to take into account. There's only one of those, so that's plus 600. And again, that's from the same table. So, bit of multiplying going on here. So it's how long did it take? Who did we have? And the total cost, 39,150. 39,150 Canadian American dollars. So that's how we work it out for system test, and it's exactly the same then for UAT. But in UAT, can you see that we've got 8 days analysis and design this time and 10 days for the test execution. And this time we've only got 2 testers. We've got 2 because here for UAT it's 2 ops testers. There they are, and we've got 1 test manager. So this time we're going to multiply it by 2, but they're not 250, they have a daily rate of 200. So that means it's going to be 18K. Excuse me. And then we've got the GUI team. Now the GUI team is working using an agile methodology, and we can see that they're all 100% committed. And who's in the GUI team? Well, we've got a tester and a test lead. And we can see from up here that the test lead is 400 and the tester is 250. But how long are they spending? Well, here we've got 2 days, but plus 3 days. So we've got 5. But we've also got 3 iterations this time. So we've got 3 iterations of 5 days, hence the 15. And then, as I said earlier, we've got the cost of 250. And for the GUI test team, you can see over here that there's just 1 tester and 1 test lead. So that's 250 plus 400, and it's 400 because the test lead is 400, whereas the test manager is 600. So we're going to add those values together, and that means we've got our detection costs. So our detection costs are down here at the bottom, 66,900. Now, do you remember earlier I said that the cost of good quality, you've got to add up the cost of prevention, the cost of detection, that's the time you're spending, whether or not you find any defects, and that's what we've just been calculating, along with the internal failure costs. Now, we worked out the internal failure costs a moment ago on the previous screen, so we've just added that in. So we know the internal failure costs from previously. We know what the detection costs are because we just calculated that. We don't have any prevention costs, so we can add it all together, and you can see there. Now, great having numbers. What does that mean? So we want the detection costs as a percentage of the cost of good quality. So there it is. So in this instance, with these timescales and these costs, we've got 25.32%. So is it less than 70%? Absolutely. No. It's not more, it's less. Detection costs make up more than 70%? No, it's only 25.32%. So depending what questions you've been asked, you've got to be ready. And the calculations aren't complicated, you just need to go through steadily. Here's another one. Potential costs of external failure. Are they 25 times greater than the cost of maintaining good quality? Okay, so it's changed this time. We're talking about the potential costs of external failure. So what would happen if those defects went live? So we got time, downtime, yeah? So severity 1, up to 1 day downtime, up to severity 4, which is negligible downtime. Okay, now we know that we've found some defects. And we also know that instantly we've fixed some defects. But we've also been given here anticipated business revenue. So we're wanting to calculate bad quality, the potential external failure costs. So how many defects have been found? Well, we know this from previously. Here they all are, found defects, okay? So just the S1s, there's 40 of those. And can you see that we're then picking up the value of the anticipated business revenue? So we've got to multiply that. But also this one, well, that comes from the potentially up to 1 day downtime, because here we're just talking about severity 1 defects. So big number. But the severity 2 defects, well, how many of those have we got? 186. And this time, the downtime is only 1/4 of a day. But we've got rather more defects, so end figure's larger. Severity 3, we've got even more of those. We've got 250 have been found, but this time it's only 1/10 of a day. 1/10 of a day downtime. So we're going to add up severity 1, 2, and 3, because in fact, severity 4, we know that's negligible downtime. So we know what's the cost, the potential external failure costs, the bad quality costs. And here, as previously, do you remember working out the good quality costs? So there it is. So we want to know what's the cost of external failure in relation to cost of good quality. And the question was, are they 25 times greater? The external failure cost 25 times greater than the cost of maintaining good quality? No, testing's even more worthwhile. Okay. And then last but not least, current risk exposure at the point of delivery. Has it been limited to less than $40,000? So again, as before, we've got what was the potential downtime, we've got our defects, and we've got our anticipated business revenue. So this time we want to think through, rather than what's been found, we want to talk about what's been found but not fixed. Right, well, can you see that in fact all of the severity ones have been fixed? So it's going to be 0, hence, of course, it's going to be 0. Current exposure for the severity ones is 0. But what about for the severity 2s? Well, here we've got 1, just 1, but we do have 1 defect that was found and not fixed. So we're going to multiply the 1 by the amount of downtime, there it is, the amount of downtime, and the anticipated business revenue. So that's going to be 25,000. And then we're going to consider, what about the severity 3s? It's exactly the same calculation. Add them together. And there we have 35. And do you remember I said before that for severity 4s, it's negligible downtime. I know we've got 240 of them, but in fact, we're not going to worry about those. So here, was it limited to less than 40,000? Absolutely, it was 35. So that's our mini lesson on business value. So just to summarize, there's this course that's called the Advanced Test Manager course, but as I've been describing, test managers come in many varieties. And so consider, would this be a course that would actually support you in your current role? In many agile models, a tester often needs test management skills in the context that they're in the multidisciplinary team context. And I went through the 7 core disciplines picked up in the test management course. And finally, the mini lesson was demonstrating the business value of testing. You can demonstrate the business value of testing. I'm going to give you a time to think about any questions you might have, but just while you're thinking about those, there's other courses that might be applicable if you are a test manager or if you are thinking about your next opportunity. And please do get in contact. It'd be lovely to hear from you. So, I appreciate some of you need to go off and do the day job. But thank you for listening, and be in contact. I'll be around for a while in case you think of something, so just pop it on the chat or talk. Thank you. Lovely to be here with you. Have a good afternoon. Hope to meet some of you sometime. Bye-bye.